My name is Bati, and recently, about 2 weeks ago, I fulfilled my main dream. I bought an apartment in my hometown. Of course, I had to borrow some money from friends, but it was worth it because I was embarrassed about living with my parents for the rest of my life. In addition, our relationship over the past few years was strained, as usually happens when children grow up and they have their own opinions. Therefore, immediately after saving the necessary amount of money, I decided to move into my own apartment. The apartment I bought was not new. I did not have enough money to buy a new one and had to look for something that my budget allowed. The only thing that confused me was the desire of the former owners to completely remove all the furniture and appliances from the house. I couldn't imagine how much money I would have to use to buy a refrigerator, a sofa, or even a table. But I didn't have much to choose from, because our town is small and there have always been few offers to buy real estate. In other words, I had to buy almost bare walls. The former owners left only an old electric stove, a few cupboards for dishes, and a couple of chairs, and my parents promised me to help with everything else. I gradually began to equip my cozy apartment. Some furniture I gave away to my parents, and some that I had to look for by my own efforts on different websites, where you could usually find a lot of things for a great price. It all started with the fact that I once wanted to buy a closet, because the dresser that my parents gave me did not fit my things. I had to go to the market because I could not find any normal offer on the internet. Already being on the local market, I suddenly found among a pile of dusty junk an old antique carved cabinet. It was just gorgeous. I've always liked rare and vintage things. From the conversation with the dealer, I learned that the cabinet was made around the 19th century and lived to this day only thanks to the careful care of the former owner. The only nuance that confused me was the cost of the cabinet. It was very underestimated. Maybe the seller did not know that such things are in demand at various auctions, or he just understood something. So before buying, I once again carefully inspected the entire cabinet for possible defects. It itself was small in size, wooden, black in color, striking in its beauty. Especially I was impressed by all the patterns on the doors of the cabinet, obviously handmade. I decided to buy this cupboard after all. After giving the seller the required amount of money, I immediately called a team of movers to transport the purchased item home. I forgot to tell you that I didn't move into my new apartment alone, but with my cat Ariel. I found her as a kitten. She was sitting outside in a little cardboard box. Then my childish and kind heart gave out, and I decided to take Ariel home, hoping that my parents would let me keep her. After my moving, I made the decision to take the cat with me, as I was very attached to her. Ariel reacted to the change of the environment very calmly. There was no hissing at empty corners and hiding. But on the day when the movers brought the closet to my apartment on the 5th floor, the cat started to behave very strangely from the very first seconds. At first, I thought that she did not like the movers, so I almost immediately escorted them to the exit after paying for their services. But even after the movers left, the cat didn't calm down, but on the contrary, started to get even more furious, running from corner to corner and yelling as if she was threatened by an invisible danger. Despite the fact that the atmosphere in the apartment was calm, at some point I just decided to leave Ariel alone and do my own thing. In the evening, I prepared a light dinner and poured Ariel her favorite food that she used to eat before going to bed. But this time, she didn't even come to her bowl. Suddenly, I thought about the fact that I hadn't seen my cat since the movers left. It didn't take me long to find Ariel. The cat had hidden under the bathtub for some unknown reasons and didn't want to come out. When I reached out to pull her out, the frightened cat started to struggle and hiss. I tried for a long time to get the cat out and calm it down, but then I just brought a bowl of food into the bathroom. Getting ready for bed, I hoped that by tomorrow the cat would calm down and everything would be as before. But the miracle did not happen. I went to the bathroom first thing in the morning to check on my pet and make sure she was okay. Surprisingly, Ariel hadn't even touched her food all night. I had to get to work right away. I decided to look for a vet while I was at the office. I went to work leaving Ariel alone with her struggles. All day at work I was worried and couldn't stop thinking about the poor cat, who right now was in a locked apartment all alone in the dark. I didn't get home until late in the evening when it was already 10 o'clock. The first thing I did was to look under the bathtub to make sure the animal was okay and nothing terrible had happened. There was no Ariel under the bathtub, which at first I was a little bit relieved. I thought that she had probably calmed down on her own and was now sweetly sleeping somewhere on the sofa or windowsill. After searching around the house, calling for my pet, I realized Ariel was missing. The window in the room was completely open, so the cat must have escaped from the apartment through the window. But I was sure I'd left all the windows closed before I left for work and had absolutely no idea who or what could have opened them. It was unclear to me what made the animal jump from the 5th floor. I quickly put on my shoes and ran outside to look for my favorite pet. I went around the whole house and almost all the neighborhood areas, but the cat was nowhere to be found. Back in the yard, I sat on the bench for a long time, despite the fact that tomorrow I had to get up early for work again. Silently sitting on the bench, I noticed a dark human figure standing at one of the windows of my house. I couldn't make out the man's appearance, but he waved at me as we knew each other. I wanted to get up and go to my entrance, but I suddenly realized that this stranger was on the 5th floor of my apartment. I remembered closing the door before I went to look for my pet, so I didn't realize who was standing there, so brazenly looking at me in my own apartment. I quickly went up to my floor, unlocked the front door with the key, and ran into the hallway. There was no one home. The first thought that popped into my head was, am I going crazy? But I couldn't just see a gloomy figure. I could still see well. I sat in my room on the couch and thought about what to do next. I noticed the old floor, which had deep cat scratches leading towards the closet. I walked over to the closet and started looking at it from different angles. There was nothing interesting inside except for my things, but on the outside, in good light, I found unknown letters scratched neatly on one of the closet doors. I tried to find the decipherment of these letters on the internet, but I could not find anything. Remembering that I have a good friend who since childhood loved to study different historical events and facts, I decided to send him a picture of these letters so that he could tell me what they meant. It was the beginning of the 3rd hour at the night, so I didn't wait for a reply. I went to the bathroom to get ready for bed. I was asleep when suddenly, through my sleep, I heard sounds like a cat scratching the floor. Ariel, stop me. Let me sleep. I sat with my eyes closed. The sounds were getting stronger. When I jumped out of bed, I realized that it wasn't my missing cat, someone else. Suddenly, all the sounds disappeared and the apartment was silent. I realized that something was wrong in the apartment, but it was hard to just leave, and there was still hope that my favorite cat was still here, just hiding very well. Suddenly, closet doors opened and I saw a deep crevice. I had never been so scared in my life. I wanted to run away from that damn closet as soon as possible, but my body didn't want to obey for some reason, so I kept walking forward. I slowly approached the closet, reaching for the knob to see what was inside. A bony hand with long fingers came out from behind the door and grabbed my wrist sharply. The pain was unbearable, but by some miracle I managed to break free. Immediately afterward, the closet doors opened and 2 glowing yellow eyes appeared, staring straight at me. The monster wheezed as if seriously ill man was inside. When I saw that nightmare, I started to run toward the exit, but before I could get to the hallway, the monster grabbed my leg and dragged me back to its place, making horrible wheezing noises. The entity dragged me slow back to the closet and wasn't even going to let go. At that moment, I managed to get my leg kicked right into a bony arm and escape the clutches of the bloodthirsty monster. I got up and ran outside. From my window was shining yellow burnt light from its eyes. A silhouette stood near my kitchen window and waved at me with a bony hand. I headed toward my parents' house. I didn't tell them what had happened to me. I decided to tell my parents a fictitious story about the cockroaches that crawled all over me at night. The next day, the movers brought out its horrible clothes. But I didn't want to just throw it away. My dad and I took the clothes out of town and burned it. I never found my cat Ariel, and I'm pretty sure she didn't escape. She was kidnapped. All the evidence of cat scratches on the floor suggests that the monster dragged her into a closet where this uncharted, creepy world. Oh yeah, just as I thought, my friend texted me back this morning right after he woke up. He couldn't tell me the exact translation of the letters scratched into one of the closet doors, but he did say with certainty that the symbols I sent him last night were written in the ancient dead language Latin.